Women are literally driving the human race towards extinction at the moment in the biggest case of fuck around and find.
Go watch that video. She's got a very interesting take on things, and it makes sense. It makes complete sense. If it doesn't to you, you need to explore the world as it is right now a little more to understand what's going on. But I'm going to bring up a point I brought up a while back in my videos that I haven't reiterated since, and I think this message needs to get out a little bit further. And that's, if we look at everything as it is, what is the purpose of your children? What is the purpose? The traditional things. Now, this is going to sound very short, and I apologize in advance, but I promise that once I get to the end of this, it should make sense, and maybe you can sift through and see what applies to or it doesn't, or if you agree or disagree. And of course, I'll ask at the end of the video. But what purpose do your children serve? Do you have a vast amount of wealth that you need to carry on in the family? Do you have a kingdom? Do you have heirlooms that need to be passed on and on that you need custodians for? No? Okay. Is your child going to be president? Do you know that your child is going to be vastly wealthy, the next inventor of something, or God forbid, the next Elon Musk? Any of those things? No? None of those? Then there's no purpose for your child. Not for you anyway, and not for the greater good of humanity. Let me explain to you what having children at this point, what it is. And you're not going to like it. And a lot of you may already know what I'm getting at, but you are producing cogs for the machine. That's it. No matter what morals you put in your children, no matter how good you try to make them, no matter how many good things you try to provide for them, the reality is you are incubating and raising a factory worker, or a worker in general, who is expected to spend every waking moment working, and anything they might have left over, they should be consuming product. That's it. That's what you've produced. Because there is no path of longevity for a fruitful life for children. The only kids that are going anywhere at this point, the only people, are people who have family who have wealth. Okay? That's it. You can look anywhere. One person that comes to mind is like Tom Segura. If you don't know about the controversy with him, I'd be glad to explain some stuff out, but you can look it up to see pretty much what's going on. But he's not an average dude who just happens to be funny and got lucky and got his break in comedy. His dad worked for a big bank. And whether you believe rumors or not about him having 4 cars or living in a mansion, it really doesn't matter. The key point here is he didn't make it because he worked hard. That world is gone. Hard work isn't going to get your kids anywhere. It's not. To be fair, I'll give you maybe 1% of the population can work hard and make it. And we're just talking the U.S. population. But for people like you and me, if you're on this app and you're watching this, you're not going to make it through hard work. It's not going to happen. And your kids aren't either. And with the expense of everything going up, you've now saddled a human being. Not only you brought a human being into this world, you have now destined them to be in debt. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just telling you what you've done. And you need to set up expectations that that child may be living with you until you die. Because the reality of your child making it on their own at this point, especially if they were born recently here, they're not going anywhere. You have now made it so they have to roommate with people. And I've heard those arguments from people that are older than I am, that, living with people can be a great experience. And not today. Not today. People are different. And there are far too many people that will try to cheat you to get ahead. There are already those people that existed. It's just worse now because it's dog eat dog, more so than it ever was. When my dad or when a grandparent would tell me it's a dog eat dog world, man, it really wasn't that bad. You at least had a fighting chance to fight back. But now if you get mixed up in the wrong situation, you're done. You are done. Because there's no rebounding from that bad situation. And jobs aren't paying anymore. So it's just not there. And sure, you may see glimmers of hope, like when your kids get their first job and they're in high school and they seem to be doing all these great things, but they don't have rent. They don't have medical bills. That's a big thing. Just those 2 things. Like, there's other stuff they don't have to worry about, but just those 2 things, not having those frees up so much income. But as soon as they hit 18 and they have to start paying rent, or when they get to that point where they have to pay for their own medical insurance if they can get it, or pay for these other expenses, there's nothing left. It's gone. And not enough parents are teaching their kids how to manage money, or teaching their kids how to grocery shop, or any of those things. You're teaching them skills, great, but not usable for anything else, right? Like, I can build shelving. I can build a bookshelf. I'm not talking IKEA. I mean, from scratch, I can take wood and I can build that. But there's no jobs for that. And if you work in a factory doing that, you're not getting paid well anymore. So the skills are useful and useless at the same time. Where does that skill come in handy? I want to build a shelf for my game collection. Great. Now I can do it for under $100 and it's going to cost me time, but I can do it for under $100 and the build quality might be a little bit better if I can find a harvester that's carrying good quality wood, because even the wood quality is going to crap these days. But I won't have to spend $300 on a shelf. That's where it saves me. That's where it's at. If I have the time to build it, though, that's the problem. So a lot of these skills that you claim that, you need to teach your kids and stuff, they don't really apply much anymore. It's not going to get them a job. Nobody cares about your work ethic anymore. They want the lowest person. They want to pay the person the lowest they can to get them in. So, yeah, I know it's not what you want to hear, but the reality is, and George Carlin said this years ago, kids are like every other group of human beings. Like a handful of them might do great things. The rest are just normal and do nothing and achieve nothing. They're just there. And our population should do better. We should be able to let people just be and not have to be special to make it anywhere. But we have our kids believing that if they're not video game streamers, if they're not in the limelight as influencers, and if they're not making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, they've failed. And we have far too many media personalities telling them they have to do that. If you're young and you stumbled across this, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. But the reality is 1% of everybody that gets into streaming, I'm not even kidding, makes it. And at that, the career ends in 5 years. So you got to bank all that money you can. That's if you don't get a controversy before then. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, you may get looped up in controversy. I'd go on a whole video about that. But that's the reality. And I've done streaming professionally. And while I didn't make it as far as people would expect me to, I got enough to see the ins and outs. I know what it's like. I have friends who did the same thing. I have a friend who made it further than I did. And we've seen the ins and outs of how that industry works. It's not nice and it's not great. So if you have any questions about those things, I'll be glad to make content on that. Even in spite of that, I may still stream again. If that comes up, I will let you guys know here on whatever platform survives TikTok. I'll let you know. But what are your thoughts on this? If you have kids, how do you feel? A woman did respond on an older video I did. She felt bad. She said she felt bad because she, realized at this point that she's kind of doomed her kids. And, it's like, don't blame yourself. You didn't know. You listened to what you thought was correct and did the best you could. But, I don't plan on having children. I have a stepson. That's got its own problems, and I've got a video series I'm going to do about the problems we've had there, but I can't do it right now, and I'll explain why that is later on. But, there's just serious issues in today's world that didn't exist in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. And I know people are like, no, there's not. They're all there. No, there's lots of different issues, and I'll be glad to explain those too. But anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this?